Guys who caught their girl cheating. Why did you forgive her? I'd been seeing a girl for 3 years and it was wonderful. I couldn't believe I had found someone so perfect for me. We were living together for most of this time, but we ended up being apart for half of a year toward the end for reasons unrelated to the relationship. Despite her being in a different state, things were still as good as ever. We made a few trips to see one another and I thought that things were actually building up. The relationship was getting better and better. Then there was a period for a few months where she seemed to become distant. I feared the worst, but assumed I was being paranoid. This girl was far too emotionally connected to me for there to be anything else going on. So I thought. I decided that I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I let this slip away over something so silly as the distance between us. Ever thinking that it could somehow evaporate seemed silly. We were just way too close. I acted out of paranoia, nevertheless. I called her and told her I wanted her to move back and move back in with me, and that I couldn't stand for us to be apart any longer, and that I felt us drifting. I can't explain how horrible the following moment was. I'd never heard her so sad. She was mortified, and I could tell. Before she said anything, she told me I'd hang up and never speak to her again. I told her that wasn't going to happen. Maybe that prepared me. At that point, I assumed cheating, but in the back of my head, I was thinking she had maybe gotten a disease or something. That was in her wording. I spoiled everything forever or something like that. It felt like an eternity. I was waiting for her to tell me she had HIV. That's when she told me that she was months into a pregnancy that wasn't my doing. My heart sank. I knew that the entire future we had always planned was gone. I told her everything would be fine and that I loved her and that accidents happen. I asked for just a few details. How far along she was and if she was being healthy. I then told her not to worry. She'd hear from me again, but that I had to go. Afterward, I went back and looked at her phone and email history to try and pinpoint the day that she did this, assuming it was only once and with one person. The worst part was that she cheated on me when everything seemed fine. We had talked that day and had a hilarious chain of emails. It was such a betrayal. Believe me, it hurts. The seriousness of a pregnancy, too. This wasn't just a casual thing. She was carrying some other guy's kid. Like, what was my dream was merely some other a-hole's accident. After all this time, I still can't avoid crying when talking about the details of it. When I called her back, I told her she was forgiven. I was honest and told her that I was hurt and that I can't trust her anymore, but I wasn't cruel. She knew how hurt I was, but I think she was hurting much worse. Both of our dreams were shattered, but at least I didn't need to live with thinking it was my fault. I'll admit, I had some horrible feelings and thought about some horrible things I'd like to say, but I just had no desire to be vengeful. When you love someone, you don't want revenge, you want understanding. I was just sad. This all happened a few years ago. For the sake of brevity, I'll sum this up by saying she had her baby, and he's wonderful. I stayed with her as a friend through the entire ordeal. We're still close friends today. I'm so happy that I didn't react harshly. She and I are not together. That trust is broken. However, I retained a friend and had a great life lesson, as did she. I also got to practice love when it wasn't easy. Though it makes me sad to think about the details of this event, I'm very happy that I still have this person in my life. Very happy I wasn't mean to her when she was at her lowest point. I'd regret that today. Story 2. I caught her cheating and forgave her. Was a big man, handled it maturely. I was understanding. And she admitted to me, a year or so later, another affair she was having. Once more, I handled that like a pro. Listened to her concerns, I talked through it, really understood where she was coming from. Later, we got married. That was great. Until out of the blue, she left me for someone with whom she was cheating on me. If I could go back and change that decision to forgive her and be understanding and listen to her, I would without the slightest hesitation. I sure as hell wouldn't stay with her, knowing what I know now. Since then, I've had a zero-tolerance policy for it and have been much happier. The few times it's been an issue, I haven't looked back, and many years on now, I've never regretted it. To boil it down, you have standards, you attract a better quality of person. Story 3. My girlfriend got pregnant, and now I'm in my 40s, married to her for over 20 years with a couple of children. When her first child was 11, over a decade ago, my wife told me I was not the biological father. I cannot express the hurt I felt that day, and honestly, I still feel it to this day. I've tried to forgive, but I simply cannot. It has even affected my relationship with that child, who's now over 20 and still doesn't know the truth. I'm currently getting a divorce for many reasons, but my failure to forgive is at the top of the list. There are no universal life lessons to be taken from this. We each react and behave differently. Frankly, I consider myself a failure in this regard. This won't be easy for me or my wife. Human sexuality still baffles me. It evokes powerful emotions. Be careful with it. Story 4. My wife cheated on me when we were first dating with a sociopathic kitty fiddler that had essayed her. It brainwashed her into basically believing what was good was whatever brought him the most satisfaction, and then he used her guilt for dating me to try to get her to do very messed up things. These included having a webcam on for him to watch the losing of our V-cards. This may seem like a long story already, but it gets even longer than that. Few people are in this exact situation, but had gone through mental cruelty as a child and understood how he could get her to do the things he did. She prosecuted him, but it took years for her to slowly get over everything. For a while, she shifted the good as partner satisfaction mentality to me, and that took a long time to get her out of. She would think that if we weren't having intimacy frequently enough, I'd leave her, so if I was sick all of a sudden, it'd be the end of the world. Having experienced it personally, it's weird to see someone else go through all these things. Her situation was much worse than mine. This did expand my mind quite a bit when it came to judging people. I have trouble even hating the kitty fiddler. I think he's broken enough to need the government to take him away from society, but I wouldn't say he's evil. Just so selfish or ignorant, not to care about the effects of his actions. The more and more I've lived, the more I've realized how freaking complex everything in this world is. It's hard sometimes to imagine that the person sitting across from you at a red light is a full person with a family, friends, and lovers. There are a lot of issues in this world that need to be addressed, but these realizations have shown me that the largest cause for strife is dehumanization. It's easy to not really believe someone else is as complex as you, to simplify their behavior to the extremes of good and bad. My wife didn't want to hurt me, but she did, in a particularly horrific way. For all that, she did love me and still loves me. All too often, we judge the person and only derivatively judge the action. On top of that, we frequently don't take into account the surrounding influences to the action. We've worked out well, and there's been no more infidelity. She's still sorry to this day for what she did, and as I understand it, one of the things that gnaws at her is how she got so messed up in that situation. Looking back, she knows what she should have done, but it didn't seem clear while going through it. Something like that is torment. Looking into yourself and seeing someone you don't recognize. Story 5. Having been cheated on, I personally would never, ever do it to anyone else, and honestly, the level of selfishness and cowardliness involved in the decision makes my mind reel. It doesn't happen by accident. People take days or months and keep making the decision to throw your trust away and damage your very ability to trust and relate to others to the greatest extent they can, all for their own gratification. They go to bed over and over again with this knowledge sitting in their mind. They think about it all the time and make the conscious decision to screw your world up. Forgive her or not, maybe she can't help who she is or whatever. It's undeniable that this is a poisonous way to behave, though, and then it makes the world a worse place to live. I don't know why you would keep someone that dangerous and self-centered in your life. Story 6. I caught my girlfriend cheating once, and I actually did it pretty cleverly. She was overseas, and I'd spent a couple of years in the military working on some fairly classified technology used for keeping tabs on particular individuals. It was clever stuff that's actually pretty easy to build if you know where to get the right parts and have the know-how. Anyway, she took a couple of weeks off to go to Europe with her girlfriends. I thought, there's no way that's totally innocent. So the first thing I did was acquire some of that technology. Story 7. I had a girlfriend cheat on me, and my experience started out quite similarly. We'd been together for years and had plans for the future. Then one day I received a call where she said, "I have something to tell you and you're going to hate me," which, by the way, can be a form of emotional cruelty. She revealed what had happened and I was furious, but after cooling off, I called back the same day and forgave her. Perhaps the key difference is that I decided to get back together with her because I couldn't stand the thought of being without her. She ended up cheating on me 5 or 6 more times. At the time, I rationalized that the first 4 or 5 incidents weren't really cheating because she'd break up with me for a day or two to fool around with someone else, then call me crying a couple of days later, telling me she knew I'd hate her but that she genuinely wanted to be with me. Eventually, when she called to say we should break up again, I simply said okay. That was finally the end of it. I did forgive her for hurting me and even let her lean on me for emotional support for the next 6 months while she was with a cruel new boyfriend. This was because she kept dangling the hope of us getting back together like a carrot. Once I finally realized how absolutely stupid I was, something my friends had constantly told me to my face but I hadn't grasped, I gave up that hope. I told her we needed to stop talking. After some time, and finding a new, better girlfriend, I became comfortable talking to her again but refused to be more than casual instant messaging friends. Now, even though she has acknowledged how much she used me, she still doesn't understand why I don't want to be real or friends with her. I basically wish I'd been tougher on her because she just didn't get it. It so happens that our usual type is domineering individuals, so she never got the chance to trample over someone like my old self again, but I have no doubt she would have without a second thought. I don't agree with the more immature parts of the other person's method. However, sometimes, confronting the severity of their actions can be a satisfying long-term course of action, and I wouldn't say it's always reprehensible. I'd also discount the fake rings, it's simply unnecessary, and I'm not good at lying. But the general idea of showing someone how much your relationship meant to you and that breaking it off doesn't strike me personally as immature, and it's not a given that he will regret this in the future. Story 8. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me at 6 months with an ex of hers while intoxicated. Eventually, I took her back and forgave her, even made efforts to rebuild the trust she destroyed. Then she slept with him again 6 months later, after breaking up with me by phone so it wouldn't be cheating a few minutes before the fact. And she tried to claim she was taken advantage of a few weeks later when I came home to make them break up formal. Cheating once, I could forgive. Do it again, you're doomed to me. And yet I still don't believe once a cheater, always a cheater. She's been with the same guy since, infidelity free. Story 9. Cheating is one of the most disrespectful things you can do to someone. The only reason I would ever speak to someone who cheated on me again is if we had a child together. There's nothing mature about forgiving infidelity. Unless you and this person had to see each other every single day, there's no need to force decency. While I wouldn't have sought revenge just because she's pregnant with no known father, I also wouldn't go out of my way to forgive someone who so blatantly disrespected me, putting my health, her health, and our relationship at risk. Story 10. Most of the comments I'm seeing here are by people who forgave their partners but ended up getting cheated on again and felt like chumps. Obviously, that happens sometimes, but I want to weigh in to send the message that that's not always how it is. Here's a story from the other side of the equation. When I went to college, I had, for some time, been in a relationship with a man whom I loved deeply. We had a strong connection and plans for the future, but I was weak and wanted the carefree lifestyle of a young, single college girl. I cheated on him not too long before my freshman year ended, and we broke up soon after. Although I didn't tell him I'd been unfaithful, what I did was weak, selfish, and short-sighted. I believed I had the right to act the way I pleased, with no regard for his feelings or the commitments he had made to me. It was a really serious relationship to be in at the young age of 18, but that didn't give me the right to be unfaithful. I should have addressed the reasons why my devotion was faltering. I'd gone looking for other people. The more I reflected on a relationship, the more I realized that I'd lost a good bit of my integrity alongside an important and irreplaceable connection. Anyway, I got my crap together, didn't cheat on anyone again, and a good bit of time later, ran into my ex in a really serendipitous way. We basically followed our hearts back to each other, and I came clean about all the crap I had done behind his back. I ran the emotional gamut of finding out how I'd betrayed him and seriously considered cutting me out of his life forever, but the more we talked about it, and the more he could objectively hear my remorse and apology through his own pain, the more he realized that, just as the OP said, when you love someone, you don't want revenge, you want understanding. Or as my partner said, when you love someone, at times it means recognizing that who she or he is more than what she or he has done. It took us a long time to navigate the fallout of my mistakes, but now our relationship is exponentially stronger than it ever was. Story 11. I caught him cheating and I forgave him. Of course, it took a while to gather myself from the situation, but I emerged stronger and wiser. While I wouldn't want to relive that hell of betrayal, the experience helped me put things in perspective. In particular, I learned the true value and importance of intrinsic values in a relationship. I'd like to think that money will never be a major factor in my future relationships. My ex and I used to spend insane amounts of money on birthdays, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, and so on, but for what? There was no real respect, trust, or intimacy in a relationship. So I came out of that breakup realizing that I no longer need or even want diamond rings or expensive clothes. None of those things truly matter when it comes down to it. I just desire companionship. I don't think that's too much to ask for, is it? We're friends now, and that's how I like it. Even though he cheated on me, it doesn't mean that I'm any better or that he's an evil person. We're all flawed human beings trying to make our way in this world. Nice guys are hard to come by, and finding one who's compatible with you is even harder, but I still have hope for the future because I was able to forgive both him and myself for what happened. Story 12. First, let me just say, once you get over it, being single rules. Now back to the story. I actually didn't find out my ex had been cheating on me until a month after we broke up. I was cleaning out the trunk of my car and found a camera I didn't recognize. I turned it on to see what was on it. It turned out to be hers, with many pictures of us going back almost 3 years. Since we had broken up on good terms, I was just flipping through the pictures, reminiscing until it got to the photos dated about 3 months before our breakup. There were only 3 pictures. The first was her and a friend at a bar, dancing with some guys. The second showed her back in a hotel room, kissing the guy. The third was of the two of them lying in bed, again kissing. I was absolutely furious. In the 3.5 years we'd been together, I'd never cheated on her. Hell, I even had several opportunities and somehow had the willpower to resist getting some strange. So I called her up, told her I had her camera and I'd come drop it off. Once I got there and gave it to her, I asked if there was anything she wanted to tell me. Of course she said no. I stayed calm and told her that I never wanted to hear from her again. That was 11 months ago and I haven't spoken to her since. To be honest, it really just confirmed a lot of suspicions I had all along. For example, one time I drove her to the airport to go see her family in Florida. Like usual, whenever she would go on vacation or wherever, she would never answer her phone. Something important came up and I really needed to get in touch with her, so I got the number from her parents and called her family. They had no idea what I was talking about and told me they hadn't seen her. I was so angry I was going to break up with her when she got home, but of course, she talked me out of it with some BS story. She fed me some line about visiting one of her friends she had gone to school with, someone who'd always think about ending it all and needed someone to talk to, and she didn't think I would understand. I'm just lucky the whole thing is over. After 3.5 years, it was at that get married or call it off point, and I'm glad we opted for the latter. We got together when we were 19, and I'm 23 now. I'm definitely not ready for marriage. Apparently, she was. She got engaged to some guy not 6 months after we broke up and is about to get married. The funny part is it's not the guy from the pictures. Sucks for her fiancé. Story 13. You have my respect. You acted like an adult. I completely understand the desire for revenge when a partner is unfaithful. However, in the end, you'll still be left with a broken heart and a bruised ego. Seeking revenge, to me, is dangerous territory. In the heat of the moment, vengeful people can do some pretty horrendous things. It's simply not worth it. With time, the pain of the event, especially cheating, will fade, and people move on with their lives. Everyone has the power to seek revenge. It takes a mature person to forego those impulses and take the high road. When you think about it, if someone is cheated on, they are truly angry at their partner or gave in to temptation and intentionally hurt them. Revenge works the same way. We let intense emotions take over. In one case, it's anger, in the other, it's desire. How can we hold others to a standard that we can't uphold ourselves when the pressure is on? If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 14. At the risk of a flurry of downvotes, I'll be honest. I'm having a hard time with this idea of forgiving cheating, or at least remaining close friends afterward. Let me tell you why. Cheating is one of the most despicable things one person can do to another. It's a blatant betrayal of trust, something you do to someone you neither love nor respect. If you're so deeply invested in a person that you want to maintain a friendly relationship with them, that's fine. However, you must realize that she has already proven she doesn't think much of you, and you're opening yourself up to further betrayal and humiliation. From her perspective, she did her worst and you came back. You're now her tool to use or discard as she pleases. Story 15. I cheated on a girlfriend with another girl I knew while on vacation. When I got back, I admitted to my girlfriend and then ended a relationship because I felt terrible for what I had done. I didn't ask for forgiveness or to be taken back. I didn't feel like I deserved any of that. My point is, not all cheaters are heartless. I have convictions and I still feel bad about cheating to this day. If I ever cheated again, I don't know how I would handle it. I could barely deal with myself the first time. I've had 2 relationships since, as well as one that has been continuing for almost 3 years now. Cheating made me realize where my priorities were, and I'm a better person because of it. Do I regret it? Absolutely, but I owe who I am now to who I was then. Story 16. I read that other guy's story, and this is where you nail him to the cross. When you love someone, you don't want revenge. You want understanding. Amen. I once cheated on the woman who is my wife today. About a year into our relationship, 8 years ago, I told her what I had done. She broke down, cried, and begged me never to do it again. I explained that I was simply a schmuck with no real excuse. She understood, hugged me, and forgave me for my actions. If the shoe had been on the other foot back then, I would have sought my revenge. I just couldn't believe any person on earth would truly forgive someone for something so cruel. That day, she taught me that someone on earth loves me for everything that I am, good and bad. I will never again take that for granted from the very person who had every right, in my mind, to take their own cold revenge. We're happier now than ever, with kids and all. I thank God every day for her. She's my angel. Always. Story 17. Okay, I have 2 sides to this story. I caught my wife with another man in our spare room on Father's Day morning. Another time, I lost her at a rave on New Year's Eve. Found her a distance away walking with some guy, followed them to his tent, watched them make out, and then walked away when they started to do something. Later, when I planned to propose to her, I found out she'd been seeing someone else for months, and I discovered she'd slept with a coworker 3 weeks before our wedding. I moved past it each time and stayed with her because we had a daughter together. You look at your child and you feel what you feel and you suck it up. As far as I'm aware, forgiveness is a nice concept, but I'm not sure humans are truly capable of it. So she cheated on me many times, and after a period of years, I in turn cheated on her. I think she cheated because she needed an ego boost. She was always overweight, especially after the baby. I cheated back out of spite, the need to feel masculine again, and because I've always had a way with incredibly attractive women. But that's not even the other side of the story. I introduced my childhood friend. We'd known each other for 2 decades, to a girl from our social circle. They hit it off, had a baby together, and got married. I was the best man. My wife and I had broken up, and the social circle got together for the 30th birthday of the maid of honor at my wedding. I was avoiding everyone as I was still raw from the breakup and kind of brushed past the girl I was best man for in a corridor. She put her hand on my chest and said, "Do you hate me or something?" I said, "No, I love you," in the way I've always expressed affection to the select group of girls in our circle who have known me for many years. As I say it, I feel it. The real deal. I brushed off again and spent many months idly wondering how it was that I was in love with someone in such a way without any understandable cause. By chance, we ended up out together one night due to last-minute cancellations. Much to drink later, we found out the feeling was mutual. Did I mention she was my ex-best friend? We didn't sleep together out of respect, but we started spending time together. We moved overseas for 2 years rather than do that to a best friend. 2 months into my time abroad, she left her guy to come be with me. So I've been both types of people in these situations. To the guys who forgave but still dumped the girl, that's not forgiveness. It's some kind of fiendish need to use your martyr status to torture someone. You man up and take it or you bail. Story 18. My first long-term girlfriend was already dating someone else when we started our relationship. I found out later, but believed what we had was special and that she had just made a mistake with him. I dated her for 2 years and eventually grew suspicious that she was cheating on me, just as she had with her previous boyfriend. I confronted her, but again, wanting to live in some fairy tale world where bad people can reform, I accepted her lies. I caught her cheating 2 weeks later and I ended things there. We went our separate ways and she went off to a different college. Over a Christmas break, she came home and we started hanging out and being intimate again. She admitted that she had recently got engaged. It was just a meaningless fooling around for me, but I felt bad for the guy on the other end as I had been in his position a few years prior. That was 3 years ago. I hadn't heard from her until Christmas this year. Her husband had just left for boot camp and she wanted to rekindle a relationship. I said no as I've since developed standards and she got furious. Bottom line, cheaters will always cheat, period. There's no changing their ways. People who stay with cheaters are too weak to do what they should and leave. Story 19. I pretended not to know. Went out and was intimate with many other women and made her my casual partner for months without revealing I knew about her infidelity. Eventually, she found out about my cheating and confronted me. I begged for forgiveness and asked her to give me another chance. I suggested she use it as a get-out-of-jail-free card for when she did something that could break us up, but she insisted she would never do anything like that. I then told her, "That's great, baby. I'm glad to hear you say that. To be honest, I only started being unfaithful to you when I found out you were cheating on me. I've never felt like I belonged with a woman before you. They were all just fun encounters I had intimacy with. Now I know you're just another casual partner, a casual intimate partner, so I feel no guilt in seeing other women, just like you. I like to keep seeing you because the only good things about this relationship have been the intimacy and the company. I don't want to give up on either, and you shouldn't either, because that's all that's meant anything to us for months now, and you have to admit, it was good." She said no, then we had breakup intimacy a few days later when she picked up her belongings. Later, we briefly reunited when she grew tired of her new boyfriend. Then, about a year after that, we hooked up again for approximately 2.5 years. The intimacy was fantastic, as usual, but I still never trusted her. Continued to have other encounters, and we eventually went our separate ways. Story 20. I cheated on my boyfriend of 7 years. We'd been living together for the last 3, and then I moved away to go to grad school. Long story short, I met a new guy. Cheated on my now long-distance boyfriend, told him immediately, and broke up with him. He didn't speak to me for a long time, but now, 3 years later, we're back to being extremely close friends. We've known each other since we were teenagers. We started out as friends, and I'm so happy to still have him in my life in some way. If he had acted horribly and sought revenge, I doubt we would be as close as we are now. Also, I'm still with a guy I cheated with. In a way, I think that helps. My ex knows that at least I didn't throw away everything we had for a stupid fling. It was someone that I truly cared about and could see myself staying with. I know a lot of people here are ranting about how anyone could cheat on someone they supposedly love, etc., but crap happens. I never stopped caring about my ex. It was just that things between us weren't as good as they once were, and I knew it would never work out because we wanted very different things out of life. And while I know, as people will point out, that I should have broken up with him as soon as I realized this, it's really hard to make that decision sometimes without a catalyst. I was happy with him. I just realized I wasn't happy as I knew I could be. So now I have a little more understanding for people who make mistakes, but I still think I would break up with someone if they cheated on me because I would view it as a consequence of a larger flaw in our relationship, not as a personal flaw of theirs, as most people here seem to think. Story 21. My high school sweetheart cheated on me after a 3-year relationship, which was incredibly devastating. I had suspicions, evidenced by her lack of punctuality, her pet peeve, and marks on her body which she claimed were caused by her cat. After confronting her, she tried to reassure me that nothing was going on. I didn't believe her, but I had no concrete evidence. 2 months later, after we graduated high school, I actually caught her, confronted her, and ended the relationship. She began calling me, asking for forgiveness and expressing her desire to get back together. I was very firm and told her no. Eventually, we both went off to local colleges but had no contact with each other. I didn't hear from her until 7 months later when she invited me for a walk in a park where we used to jog. I was feeling nostalgic and lonely, so I accepted her invitation. After talking to her, I realized that I was partly responsible for her cheating because I finally admitted to her and myself that I was no longer interested in being in a relationship with her, which in turn caused me to change my behaviors. Obviously, I expressed how angry I was that she not only cheated but also wounded my pride. I understood that I should have been more considerate of her wants and feelings. It filled the void I left with someone else. We reminisced about how we used to get intoxicated and dance at parties or alone and jog in the same park. We realized how much fun we both had when we dated and that the first 2.5 years were wonderful. I also realized that up until the point we grew apart, she was a phenomenal friend to me. As the conversation progressed, she told me she was with the same guy she cheated on me with and expressed the possibility of us getting back together. It was a tempting idea, but one that we both dismissed. I finally mustered the courage to not only forgive her, but to ask for her forgiveness. After an emotional hug, we both left and haven't spoken since. 1 year after our meeting, I'm not in a committed relationship, but I have moved on and I'm living the normal life of a college student. I suspect she's done the same, but I can't be sure because all I know about her is that she's dating the same guy. Story 22. I guess I'll share my story. When I was about 22, I was dating this amazing woman in the tech industry. She was super cool and we got along really well. She was more of the geeky executive type, and I was more of the engineer type. The physical side of our relationship was passionate and frequent, almost mind-numbingly often. She moved down the street from me so we could see each other easily, which seemed like a good step before moving in together. I can't even remember if I was in love or not. We ended up dating for about 6 months. One weekend, she abruptly announced she was going out of town. It was a bit strange, but I trusted her. After she came back, things were a little weird for a few days, but then they seemed to go back to normal. During this time, she talked about marriage a lot. When will we get married? She was constantly hitting me with estimated times for when she thought we'd tie the knot. I told her that I didn't want to get married and couldn't see myself going down that path. The intimate part of our relationship was still great, so I assumed everything was going well. She was all over me. We were spending 4 to 5 hours a day together. Then the bombshell hit. Her previous boyfriend had proposed to her and she had said yes. Her previous boyfriend was truly an awful person. One time she hurt her finger and he refused to take her to the hospital because he was busy playing Xbox or something. She just wanted to get married at any cost. She had agreed to marry him but was still sleeping with me. It was a total mind warp for me. It took me forever to get over it. Even had nightmares about her, and in some of these dreams she was harming people. Anyway, a few months down the road I was at a party and she was there. She showed up, 8 months pregnant. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I almost retched and had to sit down. I did the math. It couldn't be mine. Still scared the absolute hell out of me. Story 23. I caught my partner cheating, and while I was a bit upset, it actually turned me on. A lot. I spent years trying to figure out why I react like that. I seemed to have a reverse priorities thing. If she had intimacy with someone else, I was more annoyed at not being involved as opposed to her going behind my back. I also realized that I'd be much more upset at her simply spending time with someone else. Try as I might, if I think of her being intimate with another person, it just excites me. It's not like I want to get rid of her or that I'm bored with her, but she hasn't exactly made a habit of it either. Story 24. What about the reverse? My boyfriend has been in a few bad relationships where he suspects his exes cheated on him. This has made him slightly paranoid now. He's constantly suspecting me of infidelity. This began when he thought he saw me kissing a friend while we were caving, which never happened. He then became suspicious of past and current activities where I might have had an opportunity to cheat. He informs me of the suspicions, and I repeatedly try to reassure him that he's the only one. While most of our time together is very fun and makes both of us very happy, I feel like there's this underlying issue that darkens everything. Can this issue be fixed? Has anyone experienced something like this before? Story 25. Any couple that has been married for 50 years has had days when they couldn't stand the sight of each other. But there is, or ought to be, a merit and a value to getting up in front of your friends, family, church, community, judge, whatever, and taking the most solemn vows to pledge your life to this other person, no matter what. We cannot always know what we're swearing to when we truly swear to a thing. There are certain modern notions of trying our best or stuff like that which do not always fit the practical requirements of oath-taking. There is a certain modern worship of victimhood, where whoever suffers the most is automatically ceded the moral high ground. One of the problems with modern intimate mores is that in a world where everyone is free, everyone gets hurt. Maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing overall, but it has certainly been a boon to manipulative sociopaths and the like. I think there is a great tendency to focus on the negative aspects of old-fashioned prudence, restraint, and intimate mores, and that sometimes leads to an unbalanced view, where we lose sight of the emotional and psychic corrosion of commodity intimacy, which is not to endorse a purely black and white view, merely to point out that wet sand along the beach does not prove that there is no difference between open ocean and dry land, as some modern thinkers on sexuality seem to suggest. A particular problem of modern relationships is that of vague infidelity. Short of marriage vows, who has promised what to whom and for how long. If I break up with my girlfriend right now, go out and have intimacy, and then want to go back together in an hour, what obligation have I violated? In an era where lifelong monogamy, in the strict sense of only one intimate partner from womb to womb, is regarded as something of a joke, where intimacy is cheap and regarded as a regular accessory even to a single life, where lifelong vows are regarded as readily dissolvable, where we are all free to make up whatever rules we like for what constitutes fidelity in a world of triads and open relationships. It is not always easy to tell right from wrong. Note that I'm not saying that liberalized intimate values are wrong, but when a girlfriend or boyfriend cheats, what has really been violated? Were vows taken and broken, or was it simply a matter of hurt expectations? With specific respect to the original post about the guy who left a bachelor party to witness his girlfriend cheating, I wonder how different his reaction would have been if Theo had, instead of having intimacy, merely been giving the girlfriend a dance. Would that have been significantly different from the bachelor party? How finally do we have to dice the rules to account for the hurt that we cause each other? In a world where rules, vows, and morals are blurry all the way through? Story 26. This might have already been mentioned, and I might get voted down for this here, but if I ever caught someone cheating on me, I'd end it immediately. Not in the way described in a previous post, but would just tell her it's over. I would expect the same from her if she caught me cheating. True story. A few years ago, I was with this girl for like 10 months. Crap was really serious. I'd spent multiple months living together. I'd spent a few months working together, and I carried on a long-distance relationship. One time, I was hanging out with some people and could have seen myself cheating on her with this other girl there. That's when I knew I should end it. If I could see myself cheating on her, I shouldn't be with her. I feel that should be the same both ways. Unless in an open relationship where openness is understood. Also been in one of those. That way, everything is fair to both parties. Story 27. Well, I myself followed this route, but it ended up in just more anger directed squarely at me. To sum it up, everything was my fault in her eyes. I played it cool and just minimized contact with her, passing all correspondence to her through my lawyer. I put up with her BS, mostly until I was finally divorced from her and she was completely out of my life. In those last days, she was a complete and total witch. She was the one who cheated. Your experience and handling of the situation is just different in my eyes. Not better, not worse. The gentleman who got revenge handled it differently, of course. Both are admirable, to a degree. Yours for the sheer will to maintain the level of maturity that you did. His for the outright and unbelievable balls it took to do what he did. Again, I consider neither one better than the other. I know the level of emotion and pain that comes from being betrayed by someone you deeply love. It can make a person crazy. In my case, I took a hammer and smashed all our pictures together, especially the wedding pictures, and left my ring on the mantle. She wasn't home when I did this. We were trying to work things out at the time, but I ended up catching her again that particular day, and it was just too much for me to take. She called later, angry, complaining about the glass, and I told her I was leaving. That was 4 years ago. Details are a little foggy, but that's pretty much how things went. Story 28. My boyfriend cheated on me 6 months into our relationship. I decided to forgive him because I still cared about him, and fortunately for me, things have been great ever since. We've been back together for over 3 years. However, had we been together for 2 or 3 years or married, there's no way I would have forgiven him. And if he ever cheated on me again, no matter how much I love him, we would be done. I'm happy to say we've worked it out. I don't think anyone can judge a person's decision to forgive or not forgive something like that unless they're in that specific relationship. For some people, it's a deal breaker, but for others, it's workable. Nonetheless, I still believe people should act like adults. Engaging in acts like contaminating face cream doesn't seem very adult to me. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.